If you haven't read it, it's worth a good read. I suggest you read Blake's first and then read Justin's, or I mean, read it however you want to read it. You know what I mean? You do you, boo. Let's get into the fat shaming. That's where we're at. So the fat shaming originally started because Blake mentioned in her claim that Justin purposely went behind her back to her personal trainer and asked about her weight. Justin shows in his claim that Blake was actually pretty insecure about her weight all along. During filming, she had even asked to have all of the intimate scenes and anything with her body that will be shown to be done after the strike in the latter half of shooting. And then also he does have text messages and proof that actually Blake introduced them. She introduced Justin to that personal trainer, and Justin hired him as a personal trainer to train specifically for this movie, and also even gave him a meal plan and a workout plan to be able to do this movie and get him in shape to be able to do the lift scene and not hurt his back. So then it got back to Blake that Justin had asked about her weight so that he could properly train himself with his own personal trainer who was also training Blake, and she took that as fat shaming. The next day, she held a meeting in her penthouse with Sony reps, Wayfarer, and Justin Baldoni with Ryan Reynolds, and that was the meeting that Ryan Reynolds went off on Justin about for fat shaming his wife. A lot of people are mentioning how that scene isn't in the movie. Justin claims that it's not in the movie because even after rehearsing it with a stunt double, even after putting it on the schedule, Blake refused to shoot that scene. By now, we've all seen Miss Khaleesi and that text, but that text also is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 paragraphs. So 12 paragraphs before it finally got to the Game of Thrones reference. It is on page 23, 24, and 25 of Justin's lawsuit if you want to read the full thing. I'm happy to read it out to anyone that wants to hear it. But basically, she's begging to get to be able to write, saying how she's never been taken seriously as a writer. She's been a ghostwriter. She's written for a lot of Ryan Reynolds' films. No one ever gives her any credit. And she really, really, really wants to take a pass on this rooftop scene. And to allow her to get a pass, because even in the past on sets, even though they wanted her to write for it, she never got credit. Even though she's been paid as a writer, she never got credit. And even sometimes, because they never want to link it back to Blake Lively, they've made her scribble out 120 pages of scribbled notes so that they can try to transcribe them so that her name isn't on it. Justin gives her a pass. He's like, sure, write something. She writes something. He reads it. Then she has a meeting again at her house where he shows up to talk about the writing. They read the scene. Ryan Reynolds appears, starts going on about how great Blake is as a writer. Yep, he's agreeing. And then who shows up? Miss Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift comes in and starts talking about all of Blake's writing and how great she is. He says, at the end of the day, it was good, made me laugh. I didn't need Taylor and Ryan to tell me that. But at the end of the day, we'll probably go with a mix. Half of what you did and half of the original. She didn't like that. She ghosted the production for multiple days. And then, came back with... Again, to me, it just doesn't seem that Blake took Justin as a boss and that he was the producer and director. It seems like she looked at them as less than, like she was the boss. But after refusing to go to many wardrobes, and then we all know she kind of slowly took care of the wardrobe herself. She even refused to go and meet them for wardrobe fittings and had them go to her house instead, which cost them a lot of time and money. And as an executive producer on the set, your first concern should be budget, which she didn't have a concern about. So they tailored all the wardrobe towards her. They met her wherever she was. Yeah, okay. She started then requesting dailies. The intimacy coordinator, again, everyone's screaming intimacy coordinator. New thing, it's actually not in the SAG rules, it's a recommendation. So it's, you know, if anything, hopefully this changes rules within the union and shooting. But he had already hired one. Blake approved it. And he even had a nudity writer. So that was approved by the intimacy coordinator. And apparently she refused to meet with them. And what everyone should know is actually before she even presented that 17-point document, which was 17, not 30, the one that she got them to read and approve, which was non-negotiable, by the way. They weren't able to add anything to it. They weren't able to negotiate it, and they weren't able to question it. They had to sign it as is, or she was going to leave. Before they did that, they had only shot one scene with Blake that had any kind of kissing or intimacy in it, and she actually knew about that in advance, and she rewrote that scene as well and directed action for all of it. And then she never even asked for the intimacy coordinator for that scene. And that was just the one scene that they did previous to the strike, previous to the list of demands. I'm going to read this one because I think it's super important. This is coming from Justin's lawsuit on page 5489. Lively's later complaint sheds light on what this point was alluding to in this demand, which at the time was baffling, and upon review of the filmed evidence, unequivocally based on a lie, production was filming a romance montage of Lily and Ryle on their date. One of the producers played music to set the mood of the characters could slow dance. Lively, consistently unable to take direction, insisted she really liked the idea of the characters constantly talking because she described, she and her husband liked to keep talking and talking and talking. Baldoni, her director, and the film's assistant director, who was directing the scene, disagreed. Baldoni, in an attempt to encourage her to take his direction, Baldoni offered up that he and his wife often just look each other in the eyes and silently, to which she responded like sociopaths and laughed. Baldoni laughed and shook it off, while Lively once again started talking about how she and her husband cannot not talk. Baldoni said, "I think that's cute," and complimented the couple, to which Lively responded, "I think it's more than cute." She later on goes on to say that she kept arguing on how this scene was supposed to be shot, and they were supposed to be characters in the scene, right? So at some point, Heath and another producer were irritated. They pulled Baldoni aside to express that they can't get the shot because Lively wouldn't stop talking. He was instructed to somehow get her to stop. While there was a brief exchange, Baldoni, heeding the instructions of the assistant director and producers, continued to try to bring them back into character. As they were acting in this montage, she Lively continued to break character and speak as herself rather than as Lily. Which is like every actor knows that when you're talking about your character, like on set, when you're in set, it's not about you, it's about your character and your character's wants, needs, subconscious, anyway. It was really extremely confusing, and that's when she apologized for the smell of her spray tan and body makeup, and Baldoni responded with, "It smells good," and continued acting and slow dancing. I mean, it says, Baldoni was wearing a microphone and the entire exchange is captured on camera. But like what? That's how you talk to your director? Calling him a sociopath? She later in that same scene told him that he should get a nose job. What? If this is all recorded, that's not good, girl. Who's shaming who? I mean...